Today marks exactly 7 years since the Lilly Mine tragedy. In 2016, Yvonne Mnisi, Nkambule and Solomon Nyirenda were working inside a lamp room. A crown pillar then collapsed and caved into the old underground mine. Their bodies have been trapped in there ever since. eNCA's senior reporter Aviwe Mtila is visiting the families as they hold a memorial service. Good morning to you once again, Aviwe. Of course, we did hear, from an official that you were speaking to a little earlier on, not exactly the kinds of answers South Africans and even the families would want to hear, that the mine is still, privately owned and that we don't exactly have a particular timeline as to when we will be getting, or at least hopefully getting, those bodies coming out of down there. But it's really still, something that I would imagine is quite upsetting to the family at the moment.
Very painful ordeal for the family. They've been trying to get attention for years now, 7 years, where they've actually just wanted one thing: their remains of their loved ones to be brought up from the container, as it, of course, the mine collapsed some 7 years ago, exactly on this day. They've tried to get further steps. They've even done desperate things like moving into these dwellings, which is just right at the door of the mine. They live here now since 2019, and this is to get attention and hoping that at least their pleas will be heard and some assistance will be given. The chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Mineral Resources is actually on the ground here and spoke to the family a bit earlier on. We also caught up with him as he was making his way inside there, and they mentioned that the processes that still need to be adhered to and followed, but no concrete giving in terms of when the families will get the closure that they need in terms of getting those bodies out there. In fact, let me rope in now the family spokesperson, Ubabu Harry Mazibuko. Mnamkulu, thank you for joining us at eNCA. The chairperson of Parliament went inside. I understand you were there as well. How was he received by the families, and did they get the answer that they desperately need as to when their loved ones will be taken out?
Nothing at all. Yes, I was part of the meeting. In fact, the chairperson of the portfolio committee, Mr. Sahlulele Lozipo, he was basically before the main event informing the families that them as the PPC, how far did they went, because they've been coming here. So he was giving the final, because they've finalized it. They've made recommendation of which was already submitted on 2021 to the national speaker in Parliament. That's where it got stuck. So there was nothing more we can do. But the question still remains that where is government? Who's got authority over everything, including the business rescue practitioners, the mine management and everybody? Because yes, we've been doing things, we've been attending courts, but still that report from the PPEC is pointing to the National Parliament. It's open still for discussion. Now we need to approach the national speaker in Parliament and ask when are they going to implement that recommendation that says them as PPC, they recommend for the mine to be expropriated, because the so-called owners of the mine and the investing companies, each and everyone doesn't want let go. Yet they haven't got money, the owners of the mine. So we're still stuck. We need the last person who's got the authority in the entire country or republic to unlock this thing. If we talk sense and logic, come on. We are failing as a country to get our own people who are less than 70 meters underground.
And I mean, it's been surely a tough ordeal for the last 7 years, and going from pillar to post with the families. Do they get any indication now? I hear you mention that there's still inquests that are still have to happen. Any idea of when what they want will happen?
You see, we've got peace in our hearts, spiritually, emotionally. We've been abused by our own government, whom we elected, you see. So we don't know, where is government? What is it? At least let the President of the Republic tell South Africa and the world why we cannot solve the issue of Lilly Mine, because the container is retrievable. We've got the expertise within our country, but there's no will from the government side of it. We've been in court. Tomorrow again, there's no time to rest. We're going for an inquest, you see, whereby even the PPC on their arrival here on 2020, the owner of the mine, Mr. Makches, the CEO, he said the incident happened, it was an act of God. But in the inquest, the very same individual in his management is saying that the mine collapsed due to illegal minings, you see. So it's confusing these days saying this and saying that under the watch our government is grandstanding. Yes, it's abusing even the courts, because the courts, Mbombela High Court, 2 judges, they are ruling the same thing. Now we are from a Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. It's the same thing, and still our government is quiet. We went to the Mpumalanga legislature, and the Premier, Aviwe Mtila, said them as a Mpumalanga government cannot intervene in this issue because it's in court. Now it's out of court. Where is the Premier of Mpumalanga? What is it that is saying? What is it as our leader in the province, in a provincial level? What is it that them as provincial government is assisting the families with? If we talk sense and logic, is this how we build South Africa together? Is this how our government is fighting unemployment rate in our country? Is this the Batupili we are talking about as government? The answer is no. So we are disappointed. We're pointing to the government. It's like we're playing fun and games. The PPC, how much has been spent for them to do whatever they did? A report is submitted now to National Parliament. We have to talk about one thing. Let the people who got stuck underground be retrieved.
And one of those recommendations in the report that you mentioned is for the mine to be expropriated with reasonable compensation. There's suggestions that the owners don't want to let go of the mine, and that process of them letting go could actually speed up things in terms of the bodies being retrieved from the ground. Do you have any idea why these owners wouldn't want to let go of this mine, and more importantly, where to hear from the families?
You see, our government had an inquiry in 2017. The findings are that the mine management, the mine collapsed due to negligence. And they made recommendation that they recommend the CEO, the COO, and the general manager to be prosecuted. And then NPA is saying we cannot prosecute up until we find the missing people. So the mine management, they are not willing for our colleagues to be fined because they are avoiding prosecution for themselves. What is it? Where is it that the government can fit in to unlock this thing? It's quiet, it's grandstanding. Remember, on 2010 in Chile, an incident happened. 33 miners were trapped over 688 meters underground. They were retrieved, including by one company from here in our country, because the Chilean government called the entire cabinet, sit down and strategize, how can we find our people? And they were found. So my question to our own government, what is it that at least if they don't do something, let them tell South Africa and the world, what is it that we are failing to retrieve a container that is less than 70 meters underground?
All right, thank you very much. Aviwe Mtila is a family spokesperson of the 3 families here, of course, that lost their loved ones, still have not yet retrieved. 7 years later, with that tragic incident of the mine collapsing on this very day back in 2016.
You know, you can hear the despondence and the pain in Aviwe Mtili's voice, where he's basically saying, just government, just tell us something. You know, even the examples that he's coming up with that Chilean disaster as well, just really makes South Africa look bad in their failure to retrieve 3 bodies that are trapped in a container down underground. But hopefully more answers will continue to come out as we keep broadcasting this particular story. Aviwe, we'll leave it there with you. Thank you very much. That is our senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila, coming out of Barberton in Mpumalanga, of course.